My radio reflection of Fiji Field School. So what I'm going to do is that I summarize 5 takeaway information from all of the presentation. The first one is from Mr. Alan Lee from Fiji Airway. He gave us a good insight of how the business model in airline company is like, and for example, how to choose the correct aircraft according to your core market needs or your market needs. Um, and then also how could a small company like this could compete and survive in with and against the other big ones. And also it's important for a developing economy like Fiji to have their own national airways so that they could still have some control of air access, rather leaving all this to the large companies, and they could decide whether they would like to fly to Fiji or not. So the second one is from Miss Ellie. She's the manager of the South Sea Cruises and Awesome Adventure, Wanaka, Fiji, and it's interesting to see a company basically running transportation, which providing one of the 4 A's, it's SS, and helping the local community to set up the other 3 A's, which are uh, accommodation, attraction, and amenities. They are gaining quite a lot of profit from that because they are basically the only provider of transportation in the Yasawa Islands. And also the volunteerism business model they run, it's also quite interesting. They're helping. Of course, it's a business model. They're still earning money from that. We can see that from the price. Then they list it in the booklet. But I think this program actually did help the local who needed this and help the children and contributing to the local level to a large extent. So I would say they are running quite a successful business model in, for example, in the developing economies. So next one from Mr. Philip Harmon. I think the idea of economic of scale, it's probably the one of the most important thing I learned from this trip. I wasn't actually think too much about that before when I'm making like criticized to a cruise or a 5-star resort. Of course, alleviating poverty is ultimately about all the people who needed help, not only in one person or one family. So the scale can provide a larger, more effective or efficient way to do that. Also, another important point I learned from his speech is how difficult it would be to monitor the impact, especially in the developing country like this. Sometimes you simply don't have the data, sometimes you don't have that much control over it. And from Mr. Thomas Valentine, Tourism Fiji, he shared some challenges and opportunities with us, which are quite typical in most of the developing countries. For example, like facing natural disaster and currency rate change and opportunity as well. They also have the opening new markets. It's very interesting to see them how they think about stepping in the Chinese and Indian market. They still have a very low share percentage of their outbound tourism at the moment, tourists at the moment, but they are planning to expand that. I just want to say that, like, if you look at the example of Palau, it's for stepping in such big market could be kind of dangerous. You have to consider your current carrying capacity and see if you will get overwhelming easily or not. So the last takeaway information I want to talk about is a comparison between two models in the Yasawa Island, the Blue Lagoon Resort and Osman's Bay Resort. They're operating right next door, one to each other, to the other. And one is community owned, the other is foreign invested. So they are contributing to the local in a different way, I would say. Of course, the Osman's Bay Resort is making more direct impact. 15% of their profit will share by the whole village, according to the manager said. But the Bulagong Resort is providing more scale. They're definitely hiring more staff from the local village. So it's hard to tell which model would be better, but it's very interesting to see these two models are operating at the same time. So last, the facing issue of the Fiji tourism industry. First, I would say it's about the infrastructure. In the most developed island, the most developed destination, like around the Nandi, the infrastructure is still pretty good. But when you're talking about more remote area, like in the outer islands or in the east side of the main island, infrastructure is still needed, and they couldn't satisfy the increasing number of visitors, needs of increasing number of visitors. And second thing is Fiji, I think it's facing a relatively strong competition with other similar tropical island destination. Many people said they go to Fiji simply because the airfare is cheaper. It's cheaper, more the well of money is better in Fiji rather than in other places. So they don't actually have a very unique selling point. So for example, if Indian visitor want to go to some island, they would rather choose Mauritius. They would rather choose Mauritius simply because it's cheaper, and they will have some similar experience with the decision they go to Fiji. So they have to work harder to create some unique things. Mr. Thomas Valentine said it's all about people, which doesn't sound very convincing to me. They have to trying to dig deeper on that. The last thing I want to talk about is the Fiji time as a challenge. So I understand there's a cultural aspect of that. They want to get people relaxed and no need to hurry, that kind of thing. But I think the service standard should not be lower because of that. If especially in the higher end product, if a visitor paying a 5-star price to book in a 5-star resort, international 5-star resort, they are kind of expecting the similar service standard compared with other places around the world. So they don't want to get too much delay, and things could get done very ineffectively. So that's one issue I want to point out. They could still continue selling their Fiji time concept, but without lowering their service standard. So that's all. Thank you for listening.